We're talking about a new report. A leading global advisory firm, EY, says in a new report that it anticipates a multi-speed economic recovery with variances across countries in regional clusters. The authors of the new EY attractiveness report for Africa believes that the continent remains an attractive destination, but realizing these potentials will require significant investment in a number of areas. Joining me for a conversation to the new report is Damiloa Aloba, a partner and consumer industry group Africa leader for West Africa at EY. Aloba joins me this evening from the UK. A good evening to you, sir. Let's hit the ground running. This is about a 40-page report. Give me the highlights in just about a minute of this particular attractiveness report you released for the month of November.
Thank you, Boason. And first of all, let me say good evening to everyone. I'm quite excited to be presenting this report. This is the 11th edition of the Africa Attractiveness Report, the first since 2019. Indeed, the world has changed, and since that report, all events and prospects for the immediate future must be viewed through the lens of the pandemic that has occurred. Now, in terms of how we've looked at this report, there are four key questions that we framed on Africa's investment outlook. One of them is, how did foreign investment fare in Africa in 2020? What sectors offer the most lucrative opportunities? Which locations show potentials for investors? And will foreign investment rebound in 2021 or later? So in terms of performance of Africa as a whole, yes, Africa is poised for a multi-speed recovery path, which means that growth will vary sharply across the continent. In terms of Africa performance as a whole, GDP declined by -2.4 in Africa overall, and this is compared to a contraction of -3.6 in the global GDP. If you take that and look at what happened in the Americas, there's a contraction of 4.3% and the Eurozone -6.7%. Now, in terms of what has happened in other countries within Africa, a few of them have actually been resilient. Tanzania and Ethiopia rose by 4.8% and 3.3% respectively, and Egypt's GDP rose by 1.5% and Cote d'Ivoire 1.2%. FDIs fell sharply, right, in 2020, and there has been a shift in areas where FDIs have been going from extractive segments or sector to non-extractive sectors. So FDI in Africa, has been hit by this pandemic in such a way that if you look at FDI over the last 5 years up to 2020 by project number, there's been a 50% decline from about 1,029 projects, FDI projects, to 516 FDI projects. So if I take on...
Yes, Damilola, just a very quick one, just to maximize our time. I wanted us to actually do a bit of a regional basis. If you look at East Africa, what are the key findings? Give me that in 30 seconds.
Yes. East Africa remained resilient. It continued its trajectory as the fastest growing region in Africa in 2020. And, most of the countries were experiencing contraction due to COVID, but East African region grew by an average of 2.3% over the period. And Kenya seen a slight GDP contraction for this first time in 2 decades, but Ethiopia and Tanzania slowed down a bit in 2020, but remained in the positive trajectory. So we expect that there will be a rebound in Kenya's growth by 5% in 2021, and also Tanzania by 4.5 and 2.2 in Ethiopia. So that's what we've seen. We think that the Kenya's economic recovery strategy that has been implemented has a strong recovery and will catalyze the recovery in 2020.
From all indications, North Africa seemed to have done a little bit better than the rest. If you look at Egypt and Morocco, talk to me about these two countries, specifically speaking, in terms of attracting foreign direct investment as well as portfolio investments.
Right. So, well, North Africa was hot by COVID-19. It was one of the worst hit by the pandemic, with Morocco registering about second highest COVID cases in Africa. However, Egypt's economy proved somewhat resilient, recording about 1.5% growth in 2020. But this was disrupted by COVID-19, and it disrupted government's fiscal consolidation plans as external debt continued to rise by 15%, in 2020 to about $129 billion. So gross government debt reached about 95% of GDP, which is extremely high. On the contrary, Morocco saw a sharp contraction of 7.1% in 2020, the first of its kind in 2 decades. But overall, we expect that this will rebound for Egypt. There will be a rebound of about 4.1 in 2021, owing to expected strong capital expenditure and reviving exports.
If we talk about West Africa, who's leading the investment flows and why?
Well, in West Africa, we see two strong economies playing prominent roles in that space, and that is Nigeria and Ghana. And overall, Nigeria seems to be the number three, in terms of FDI. FDI into West Africa was largely driven by telecom sector in Nigeria, owing to its large population and lucrative internet and mobile penetration rates. So Nigeria's ranked third overall, Ghana ranked sixth overall, Cote d'Ivoire ranked 7th in West Africa in terms of FDI. So, these two countries, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, their growth, the FDI attraction is driven by their pro-investment economic reforms and focus on diversification away from resource-based sectors.
Damilola, right now South Africa is the epicenter of this entire new Omicron variant. What are the key issues for Southern African economies in terms of recovery? We saw the GDP third quarter out about 1.5% negative today for South Africa. Give me your thoughts on this as our final point.
Well, in terms of South Africa, we think that growth in the region is going to rebound over the medium term. After it was impacted by COVID as well. South Africa recorded the highest number of cases, of course. However, Mozambique's GDP contracted by 1.3% in 2020 due to supply chain disruptions. Now, recovery in Southern Africa will be led by South Africa's economy, which is already experiencing some growth in the first half, owing to pickup of the industrial sector, particularly in the mining and manufacturing sector.
Damilola Aloba, thank you so much. Partner Atiwa, thank you for your time on the show tonight.